One thing that I have learned as I have traveled across the middle part of the country in the West and meeting ranchers and touring ranches and looking at their practices, especially those that have really started to adopt some of these regenerative approaches or holistic approaches, to where instead of just dumping animals out on the whole place and letting them graze year round, they've really carefully managed their grazing and moved animals among paddocks across the land to recreate sort of that landscape that would have occurred historically. You know, Audubon came at this from a standpoint of bird habitat. So it was clear to me up front that when you do that, when you can move animals, short duration, pretty high intensity, long deferment where you're allowing that patch to recover for months or even years, pretty obvious to me that from a plant community standpoint, you're doing some good things. What I never realized, and I've learned from these regenerative ranchers across the country, is when you do that, and when you do it well, you actually start to rebuild soil health. Like, you can actually rebuild soil organic matter, like inches at a time over a period of years. And when you do that, your plant diversity starts to improve, your productivity improves, the nutritional quality of the actual forage themselves that the cattle are eating, it goes up, the animals are healthier, the rancher actually puts fewer inputs into the ranch, so they're not dumping fertilizer out there all the time, they're not having to spray weeds like they used to do, they're not trying to control everything under the sun with a chemical in a jug. They're actually just moving the animals across the landscape and allowing the animals and those natural processes that co-evolved with this type of grazing to sort of re-emerge. And it's pretty incredible what you see. I've seen some of the research that's been done across the country from a standpoint of water infiltration, the ability of the land to hold water, which is all about drought resilience. So in these places that are sort of having droughts more often and more severe, these ranches that are using these practices actually have the ability to hold water, and the plant community doesn't just die off as quickly. It actually is able to stay functional and productive in those periods of drought. So from a standpoint of soil health, plant productivity, animal health and productivity, and just ranch, the bottom line for the rancher, totally absent from the Audubon certification, they're going to do better in that situation, because they're over time, and this is pretty incredible too, over time a lot of these ranchers are doubling their stocking rate on their place. They're able to have more animals on their entire ranch than they would have had 5 years ago, and they're actually increasing plant community diversity and productivity and bird habitat in the process, which you would never think that would be the case. You think more animals, less vegetation, less habitat, less diversity, but that's just not the way it works. It's how you move the animals and how you manage those animals that makes all the difference.